so what we're doing first is we're going to do the energy healing first. So in order to do this, I need some volunteers to give me just the name of somebody that you know who is ill or suffering from some type of chronic pain or disease. So just the initials. I just need the initials. Yeah.
C.
So CB.
CB.
Okay.
MK.
Okay.
SA.
Chris
AS.
and Bojana.
JA.
J8.
H.
Okay. Everybody should write these down. Are you writing them down?
Park Okay, so there's CB, MK, SA, AS, JH.
Vanessa, are we stopping at 5 or will it add more?
We're going to do about 7.
Could I add one?
Okay, KM.
N, oh,
Okay.
NM.
NM.
RS.
Okay, and then that's enough. Okay.
The people who offered these initials have somebody in mind who they know has some sort of problem, and they know what that problem is. Because we're going to do 2 things. We're going to do diagnosing, in other words, try to decide what is the problem, and then we're going to do healing. Well, we won't have any feedback on the healing unless you give it to Vanessa, and Vanessa then can send it back out to you because she has all your email addresses. But we can get immediate feedback on the diagnosing. Okay. If you want to include yourself on this list, so you work on yourself, or somebody else you know that's not on this list.
That's your wife.
So if you want to add others on your list, on this list, that's fine. You can add others. There'll be enough time for you to do these 7 and 4 or 5 more if you want. You'll have time. The reason you'll have time is that I've learned in doing this with people that the more time you give people, the better able they are to confuse themselves.
Yeah.
You actually can do this very easily. It's very natural. And the more you think about it, the less natural you get. And the poorer results you get. It's much better to just do it. And it doesn't take too long. So we're going to talk about healing and actually what you're doing, how it works, and I'll give you some tools that you can use. You can make up any tools that suit you. All right, how does it work? We already mentioned your intent is modifying future probability. You're much stronger in that intent if it comes from your being level, not your intellect. An intent from the intellect is like making a wish. It's not real effective. It is a little bit effective, but not very effective. So you want to get into a deeper level, which means it has to come out. Some people would say it has to come out of your heart. But being level and body parts really don't correlate that well. It has to come out of that deep place of you. Your being level is who you are at the core. It's the core of you. It doesn't have anything to do with who you think you are, who you think you should be, who you try to be. It's who you really are at the core. Interestingly enough, when you have dreams, all the choices you make in your dreams are at the being level. Your intellect doesn't go with you in the dream. You're an actor in your dream at the being level. So in your dreams, if you think you make terrible decisions or wonderful decisions, that's you. That's really the core of you. That's who you are. So we need to do this from the being level. Those of you who are very left-brained, which means you live out of your heads, everything runs through your intellect, you're saying, what being level? What is a being level? It says, don't use your intellect, but if I don't think about it, then my mind's blank and I'm not thinking about anything, and how can I do it if I don't think about it? If I think about it, I'm not doing it right. You see, there's a problem. There's no way for you to do it right, because you have to think about it to do it. Take some practice finding that being level. If you're right-brained, very big picture of the way you develop things in your mind, then that won't be your problem. You work out of your being level all the time anyway. If you're very right-brained, your problem is the opposite, in that you can't describe to yourself or anybody else what exactly what it is you do. You just do it and it works, and don't ask me how. So you can't explain it to anyone, and you're not even quite sure how you got to that point where you did it, other than it started to work a little bit once, so you practice it a little, and you eventually worked your way there. That's kind of the right-brained approach to things, and it's mostly a being level approach. So the being level is where you want to be. How else can I tell you about the being level? Your emotions come out of your being level. When you feel angry or upset, somebody pushes your button and you go off, that comes right out of your being level. That's who you are.
That was Sydney.
So that's another idea of what is this being level. It's where your feelings come from. So one way to work with the feeling level is don't think it, feel it. Okay, so you're projecting a feeling, a strong, clear, focused feeling, rather than a strong, clear, focused idea. But if you tend to be visual, you can take this feeling and make it a visual. Right? That's what good art does. It does visuals that give us feelings. So feelings and visuals can go together. So feel it. Feel your way through it. Now, feel your way through it doesn't mean, do I have to be really happy or really glad or sad or angry or intense or what? No. You just have to be clear and focused so that all of your energy, all of your thought, all of your existence is focused down to just this one thing. That's what we mean by focus. Other than that, just let it go. Don't try to do it. If you try to do it, if you want to do it, if it's, oh, I want to get this right. I'd love to be able to heal people. That would be so neat. I want to get this right, but I know I'm just not good at this. I probably won't. If you have that kind of an attitude, you probably won't do very well. For one, you're being excited about it is mostly taking place in your intellect. Something you'd like to do, want to do. Approach it more casually. It's okay to want to do it, but not a whole lot. I really want to do it. That is not helpful, but yeah, okay, let's do it and see what happens. That's helpful. Casual. Just going to do the experiment, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm just going along with this thing, and there's no pressure, there's no problem, and whether you get it right or wrong really isn't the point. It's the exercise that's more important. You can work on it later and get better at it. You don't have to be real good at it right away. So just kind of go along with it very casually. That's the better attitude. Now, you might wonder about this as targets. CB, there's probably at least 10 million people on the planet who have the initial CB. you have to have a very specific intent of who it is you're talking about. It has to be that CB that was said by this lady who has somebody very specific in mind with those initials. That's the CB, not just any CB. So if in your mind your intent is, oh, I'm going to diagnose and heal CB, you will get a random draw from all the people on the planet whose initials are CB, because those will be all the possibilities from your intent. That won't work out very well. So your intent has to be specific to every one of these. There's only one CB or one MK that we're talking about here. And there's somebody here that knows that person well enough to know what ails them. And you can just use that as your target. It's the CB or the MK that was voiced here by that individual and knows that person. That's the one I want. Okay, so that's enough of an address. Now first, what we're going to do is we're going to diagnose. And diagnosing, to do that, we're going to use tools. You can make up your own tools. There's nothing sacred about tools. I will give you some tools that you can use. I'll maybe give you several different kinds of tools, but eventually, if you practice this, you will want to create your own tools. Your tools will be better than anybody else's tools. And when you sign up for a training course to do such and such a healing, that person will give you their tools. And you will learn their tools, and you will practice their tools. And you often can be good with somebody else's tools if their metaphors are very close to your metaphors, the way you see the world, the terms and the metaphors you use. Then it'll work well for you. If their metaphors are really not the same as your metaphors, that modality just won't work for you. That's why it's better to use your own tools, but you can't develop a tool on the spot here today. So you can probably use my tools unless you have your own. And just be aware that if you do practice this, you need to also be open to tools that mean something to you. A tool is a thing that helps you focus your intent on something from the being level. All right, so a diagnosing tool, kind of your standard plain vanilla diagnosing tool, is that you start with an intent that says, I would like a kind of humanoid outline. I just call that like a gingerbread cookie. You know, it's got kind of a lump for a head, you know, shoulders, arms, a little trunk, legs, maybe feet, maybe hands. It just has the basic parts outlined. Not looking for photographic realism. We're just looking for something that is a symbol of a human being, because all these people, all these initials, I believe, go to human beings. We don't have any dogs and cats in here, do we? Different symbol for them, but these are human beings. So it can be just any kind of humanoid outline. And then you'd say, I would like this humanoid shape to represent CB. The CB that was put on this board because of the person who knows somebody named it. That's the CB I want. Okay, so you have that intent. So we have intention for this outline now to represent the health body of this particular individual. So that's the first thing. While you have that intent in your mind, and you have to hold it in your mind, you also have to have an intent that says, I would like the things that are healthy and good in the health body of CB to be white. And the things that are unhealthy and that are health problems in CB to be dark. And the darker they are, the worse the problem is. So something is like you've got a malignant cancer that's going to kill you would be very, very dark, black as coal. That you've got the flu or you've got, something else, maybe would be gray of some sort, from charcoal gray to a very light gray, maybe just had a cold, very light gray cloud. And you want the illness to be somewhere in this body where its effect is, or where the problem is. So if somebody had a problem with their throat, and they coughed a lot, you might see something dark around the throat area. Or if they had a problem with their foot, you'd see it there, or their heart, or their liver, or some other organ, you tend to see it in that part of the gingerbread cookie. Okay, so that's what we mean when we say the gingerbread cookie now is representing the health body. And that the unhealthy things are dark, the healthy things are white. And that's going to be our scheme for diagnosing. And we're going to look at that, and when we see it, the very first things that comes into our mind, very first thing, and the first thing that will come into your mind will be in the first millisecond. I mean the very first thing. It's there, just like that. That's the one you want to keep. Write that down on your piece of paper. Make your little gingerbread cookie outline on your piece of paper before we start, so you can make 7 of them eventually, and then you'll open your eyes and you'll pencil in a little dark spot wherever it is you saw. Then if you want to check it, you can go back and check it and do that sort of thing if you want. Now, there's a few complications that I'm going to make this a little more complicated. It makes a big difference whether this gingerbread cookie is facing you like I am, because then right and left are opposite from your right and left. Or if this gingerbread cookie is facing away from you, then its right and left is the same as your right and left. If you don't make an intention of how that gingerbread cookie is oriented, you'll get a 50-50 chance between this side and that side. And if you have in your mind a kind of a proclivity for always seeing figures either facing or away from you, you'll have a proclivity of always getting it on the right or the wrong side. It'll just be that way. You'll say, I do this a lot. I'm really pretty good at it, except it's always on the wrong side. That's because you have a kind of a built-in fundamental default answer. And unless you override that, that's what you'll get. Okay, so we need to know right and left. Part of your intent. I'm stacking all these intents on top of each other. In each intent, you don't let go of the last intent and get a new intent. You hold all the intents, all at the same time. And there's one more complication. If you see something and it's right, say, here, and it looks like it's on my chest, well, maybe it's on my back. And you're looking right through me, getting everything on the back, because it's just a 2-dimensional gingerbread cookie. Your gingerbread cookie doesn't have depth. So now you have to say, all right, while I'm looking at a gingerbread cookie, turn sideways. And now you can see front from back. It's another intent. Now generally when you heal people, you don't go through all this trouble, because it's really not that relevant to healing anybody. But if you're trying to diagnose people, so you can check it against what they really have, so you can verify whether you're getting the data right or wrong, then you have to go through all of this trouble, which is what we're doing, because that's going to be your evidence. That's your ground truth here for what we're doing. You always need ground truth, otherwise you don't know whether you're getting real data or not. All right, so we have a whole set of intents. You intent that CB is a very particular CB. You intent that the gingerbread cookie is representative of CB's health body. You intend that that health body, where it's healthy, is very light, and where it's unhealthy is dark. You intend that that health body is facing you or facing away from you. Either one will do, just as long as it's in your intent. And then after you've done all that and looked at things, you're going to intend that it turn 90 degrees so you can separate front and back. And every intent has to be held while you add intents to it. So you see there's a little bit of learning here. You have to have a quiet mind and a focus. Otherwise, you know, you're on your third intent and the first one's already dropped off and you've forgotten about it. You have to have all these intents held together. So that's kind of your challenge. And it's not all that hard to do. It just takes a little bit of practice. But most of us can hold up to 5 intents at once. You know, it's not so hard to do. So that's what we will be doing for the diagnosis. No problem with you opening your eyes and writing down in your picture where you see it and closing your eyes and giving another check and opening them again and writing it down and, you know, wiggle around in your chair if you want. There's no problem with the physical thing. We're not even going to meditate. We're not going to get quiet. You know, we're not going to do any of that. You're just going to do this fresh, right off the top, without any preparation, because you'll find that that's just as good as all the preparation. The preparation mostly turns into rituals that make us feel better about what we're doing and give us confidence because we've done the ritual. Rituals really aren't necessary. So you're going to have the intent, so when you say, I'd like to see the health, I'd like to see what's healthy and what's not, that black and white body, that's it, millisecond. You got it. If you got to say, let's see, did I see that yet? Let me make sure. Was it dark there? Well, I'm not so sure. If you get into that, you're going to lose it. Don't start second guessing yourself. That's why you can do these things quickly. Because I don't want a lot of second guessing. Because once you get into that, that's your intellect taking over. The being level is dropped and you become ineffective. So the idea is no performance anxiety. You're just going to play the game and see how it comes out. You're going to take the first things that come and you'll just go on to the next one. As you see, it won't take long to run through this many. I'll give you some time, but you'll be able to, you know, I'll give you probably way more time than you need, maybe 30 seconds or so for each one. This is a long time doing all that, but I'll give you a little more in the beginning because you're still juggling with the ideas, and I'll give you a little less at the end, hurry you up along a little bit. But it's not that we're in a hurry to get done. It's just I give you too much time, you will become your own worst enemy. That's the problem. We don't care about performance. We're just going to do it. All right, now that's this much. The next thing that we're going to do, and we're going to do these all together, we're going to diagnose and then heal each one of these. So when it comes to the healing part, now, there are, before I go to the healing part, we're still talking about the diagnosis, some alternatives to black and white. Some people, instead of seeing black and white because they're not visual, right, just feel where it is. That's perfectly good. If you feel like it's over here on the front, fine, feel it. Because when I say see it, a lot of people are waiting for pictures. You can see it with your feelings just as well. So you can, it's amazing what people can feel. When you take people who are right-brained and they're doing these things, they can feel amazing amount of detail. They can say, I feel a red fire truck, and I can see it's got, white wheels, not black wheels, and there's 3 people on it, and they're wearing blue suits, and they go on and on and on, and they say, I didn't see anything. I just felt that that's the way it was. That's okay. It's just a different metaphors for getting information. Seeing it is more of a metaphor than actually a fact. It's how we interpret the data. And if you don't interpret it in terms of pictures, you can interpret it in terms of feelings. And the feelings are pictures, but you don't ever have to admit that. You can just let it be however it is. The feelings work fine. sometimes people will use their own body as the gingerbread cookie. Oh, I get a little tingle here, and that means it's there, and I get a little pressure over here, and I can feel something, so they'll use their body as a gingerbread cookie. Well, that's okay. You can do that. It's often not as comfortable because you've got this stuff going on in your body, and it's a little harder to see things that are darker and things that are lighter, but you tend to feel that anyway. So that's another thing that people do. To me, that's a little more problematic and a little more difficult, but if that's the way you learn to do it, then that's your tool, and you can use that tool. It's kind of an empathic tool for doing it. There are more tools that I could say, and maybe just in general about tool use, is that the output, you're getting data from a database. That's where this diagnosis stuff is coming from. That's where the black and white is coming from. It's data in a database. When you set up these intents, it's a query to a database, and you get the data. That's the source. The output format of the data is any output format of your choice. You can say, output this data in a graphical picture like the one we just described, black and white and so on. That's an output format. It's a simple format, that's why I used it. Any other format will do too. By thumping feelings in my own body, or by tingling if it's not too serious, and ache if it's more serious. And you can have any kind of output format you like. You could have a graph. You could have all the body parts listed down here, and then it'll have a bar graph that would show you, and the higher the bar, maybe the healthier it is, or maybe the less healthy it is. However you make it up, you can do it in color graphs. Any output format you want is available. It's a very nice database. So I've just given you a default output format by describing as black and white. There's nothing magic about that. It's just an output format. Any other will work just as well. Some people, it's a little more difficult, but they break it down into pieces. And they'll say, well, is it in this part of the body? If so, I want to see a red light, or I want to see a yes or a no or whatever. And then they work it down like a lawyer questioning somebody. There's all sorts of ways you can do it. And generally, you want to pick those ways that are most efficient and effective for you, that take the least amount of time and get you the answers right. So that's why you have to generate your own tools. Okay, now we're going to heal. And the thing that you'll do when you heal is, if your metaphor is the black and white things that we just said, then your metaphor for healing is to get rid of those black spots and turn them white. That's your metaphor for the healing. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, we have a belief here in this virtual reality of ours, because it's the way our virtual reality works, that if you don't do something, nothing will change. So we feel obligated to do something. So there's a lot of different things you can do. The doing is all symbolic. You can take your powerful energy beam white light thingy, and you can point it at the black spot, and see the beam of light hit the black spot, and it just turns that black spot white. Okay, now you're a light worker. That's a tool. It's just a tool. There is no light, there is no black spot. All of this stuff is symbology. It's all metaphor. Or you can take your handy dandy flamethrower. Now you're not a light worker, you're a flamethrower worker, and you can burn it out. You can put acid on it. You can cut it out. You can take your vacuum cleaner, suck it right off of that gingerbread cookie. If you're inclined to fantasy, you can use your magic wand. There's a young lady in an event I did earlier this year who just was totally thrilled to get into a Harry Potter metaphor and use her wand, and it worked so wonderfully for her. And this was like 2/3 of the way through the exercises, and nothing was working, and she was very distressed, and I just happened to throw out the magic wand. She says, "Can we do that?" I said, "Sure." And she was totally successful for the rest of the time because her magic wand fixed everything. Sprinkle fairy dust on it if you wish. Whatever you want. It's your metaphor. So if you have a metaphor where fairy dust is something that really gets you at the being level, that should be your metaphor. See? So that's why you need a personal metaphor, because you are the only one that knows what really can tap into you at the being level. So that's why you need your own metaphor. But if you haven't developed your own metaphor yet, then a beam of white light, a laser, is probably just as good as any. And again, you don't have to see it, you can feel it. Okay. The reason we need these tools is because we have so much experience here where it takes doing to accomplish anything, that just saying, dark spots, go away, would work just as well, but we can't do that because inside our heads when we say that is, nah, that won't work. That's too easy. You're not really doing anything. You're just wishing it away, and everybody knows wishing things away doesn't make them go away. So if you didn't have that belief, you could just go away. It would work just as well. But don't think that you can just get rid of your beliefs that easy. These beliefs run deep. So better to find some good tools that you can work with. And don't be afraid to change your tools from time to time. You will grow, your tools will change. And your tools will probably change from things that are more cumbersome and take a lot of time to things that are faster and easier to do. So the tools will change as you change. All right, so that's the idea. Now there's one more thing about beliefs that's a problem. It can be a problem. And it'll just give you an idea about tools. You have beliefs that you have no idea that you have. We all do. We just get it out of the collective consciousness. Yes, there is a collective consciousness. There's lots of them. And we get these ideas and beliefs there. We get them from books we read. We just soak them up out of our culture. And some of them are just our own personal ideas and attitudes. But these beliefs can create trouble for some people. Okay, some people have a belief, let's say, that you can't heal somebody if you don't touch them. The energy comes out of your hands into the person to do the healing. That's a belief. If you believe that, then that's what you'll have to do, because nothing else would work. And you can feel the energy coming out of that hand, and the person will feel the heat from that energy coming out of your hand. It's a good metaphor, but it's a very limiting metaphor. Some people who will decide that they're more surgeon than they are laser wielders or torch wielders, they will get the idea that they will go in and they'll just cut that spot out and then replace it with white light. Well, that creates problems in their mind because they also have beliefs that if they just cut it out, there's two problems. One, what are you going to do with it? You just cut it out and let it fall on the ground. You cut it out, throw it over your shoulder for luck. You know, what are you going to do with it? Well, they're just metaphors. So really, you know, it's a kind of a silly point, right? They're just metaphors. But they're not silly points, because if you believe that if you just cut it out and let it lay around, you may also believe that this stuff is lying around and you could get into it, or somebody else could inadvertently, and get sick. And if you have that belief, you can get sick. You see? Because there'll be this fear in there that, oh, I just left all that stuff laying around. What if I bump into it? See? And that fear will then raise the probability of you getting ill with that particular illness, and you get sick. You might get sick. Okay? So, what do? Well, since these are all symbols, you put on your rubber gloves like any good surgeon would. Careful that it doesn't touch you because you can get sick. You take your knife and you cut it out, and then you open up this big jar, you drop in the knife and the stuff that's black, put on the lid real tight. Whew. Now you're safe. Then you take the stuff in the jar, it has the knives in there too, and you throw it into the sun where it instantly vaporizes. Sun is a really neat symbol. You can get a lot out of the sun as a symbol. You see? So it sounds silly, and we kind of laugh at that, but it's true. Sometimes people who heal in the very beginning stages of this being a healer, that the only way to heal is to take the illness on to themselves. Oh, you've got some kind of problem. Okay, I will take that on to me, and that'll be my problem, but you'll be healed of it. Well, if that's what you're doing, your probability of getting that illness now goes up. Not because you took something on, but because the symbols create that reality for you. That intent of yours will raise the probability that you're going to get their illness. You have to be a little bit of a martyr to take that path. But people do take that path. Very limiting. Very limiting path. And I'm just saying there's lots of ways to approach this. Some are more effective and more efficient than others. So you have to look at the effectiveness and the efficiency of what you're doing. They're just metaphors. All right, now you want that white light to be not only white but bright. Okay, you've gotten rid of the black spots. You want it to be really, really bright. You know how to make it brighter? Just put on a pair of really dark glasses, like the ones you look at the sun with, and then make it get so much brighter that it even hurts your eyes through those dark glasses.
Imagine the molten steel.
Imagine the molten steel being poured out of a big, thing into a big pot. You know how the steel factories work. And imagine that white light,
giving off light.
Iridescent, giving off light. That's how bright it has to be. And you want it to stay that way. You have to have an intent that not only is it white for this next 5 seconds, but it's going to stay white
5
for
days,
the next 5 days or 5 years or whatever. You want it to stay white. So it's another intense. We're really stacking intents here.
So that's what you do.
So that's what you do.
So do it as effectively.
So do it as effectively,
Efficiently.
efficiently,
Feel comfortable with.
as you feel comfortable
Don't use any more
with.
process.
Don't use any more process than you really need to get the job done. You can do it all very quickly, because once you start thinking about it, you've kind of lost the bubble anyway. So just do it from the being level, with power, with focused intent. Nothing else going on in your mind. All of you is focused on this one thing. When you do the diagnosis, take what you get, write it down. On to the next thing. Don't worry about is that right or wrong. It doesn't make any sense. Just put it down. Don't second guess. Just do it. Now, I would say that all of you could, if you practiced, or at least most of you could, if you practiced, become reasonably good healers in about 6 months. It's not that hard. But you would have to do just what we're doing here, probably, at least once a week, maybe twice a week if you could. I mean, you have to keep doing it regularly. You have to do this hundreds of times. Go find the results. Do it with a buddy, do it with a friend. One friend can get sick people for a friend to work on, and that one gets sick people for you to work on. And then you trade, you do the diagnosis, and you can also keep track of the ailments so that people get better. Okay? The one last thing is that when you're done, if you want to have the maximum effect, don't stop there. You're going to need to keep putting energy back into that for probably about 2 weeks. For about 2 weeks, 4, 5, 6 times a day, visit it in your mind, which for most people equates to in your imagination. visit it, say, oh, that white got a little dingy. Let me just freshen it up a little bit, make it brighter and white, and you do that 4, 5, 6 times a day. It only takes you 15 seconds, 30 seconds. You know, if you're at work, it takes you less time than it takes to walk to the restroom. So every time you have to walk to the restroom, give that a little, hit that a little bit, make that light a little brighter. Keep that intent about it staying there and lasting a long time. Yeah.
Just about, it could be a belief system, but it's also like CV, does he or she know that, is there permission from that person?
Yes, that brings in another thing generally about healing, okay? It's possible to overrun somebody else's free will, and that is not a good thing. It is possible to do that even in a pretty large way, to run over somebody's free will. Illness is also a growing experience. Most people have illnesses because they've created them out of their fears and their behavior and their attitudes, and the illness is part of their feedback in growing up. Death can be a very growing experience. As people get toward their end, they let go of all the petty nonsense and start actually seeing what's important and what's not. Death is just another chapter in a book. It's not such a serious thing, particularly if you learn something from it. So,
But not your own, right?
you don't want to force people to be healthy who need to be ill. You don't want to take somebody who would think everything I just told you has to be, you know, the work of the devil or something because of their religious beliefs. You don't want to be doing something with them that they wouldn't like. So you have to be a little considerate of other people. Now, on the other side of that coin, unless you practiced a long time and you really are a good healer, the probability that you're going to run over anybody's free will here today is very, very small. Even if you are a good healer and you run over somebody's free will, what you'll find is that free will just reassert itself shortly thereafter. You're not going to have the last word. And that's how you know mostly that you should leave it alone. You go in and you try to heal it and it doesn't work. It goes right away. The light turns right back to dark. You look in an hour later, it's turned dark again. You do it, it turns dark. That's a good sign that says, leave it alone. It doesn't want to change. It is what it is. So if you get pushback, then it's better to leave it. Don't push too hard. But when you're new at this and you're just practicing, people tend to push as hard as they can because they want the biggest effect that they can see so that they get the evidence. And if you're in that role, you're really not going to hurt anyone because you're not that powerful yet. And even if you were, they will win in the end anyway. You're just going to delay them a little. I have done that multiple times. People come and ask, even people about themselves, I've got this illness, please heal me. And I go in and I get pushback from them. Well, intellectually they want it healed, but at another level they don't. But they want it so desperately that you say, okay, I'll do it anyway. And you heal them, and it's gone. The cancer's gone. There's no more cancer. 2 weeks later, they get a rare blood disease. All right, maybe you heal the blood disease. 2 months later, they get run over by a truck. Try curing that one. Yeah? So the will assert itself. So you can overrun somebody's desire, but it'll mostly work itself out. So you're not really going to do a lot of harm by trying to heal somebody if your intent is love and peace. It's only polite to be aware of people's feelings about this sort of thing and not to work on people who would be aghast and horrified that you were using devil's work to heal them. You want to give a more general intent that the whole body, the whole system, and all its components heal. So if you have that general thing, then it'll take care of all of that, emotional. And another thing I thought you were going to bring up was that sometimes these healings, these things that are wrong are really emotional problems.
Right,
Doesn't have to be that somebody has a broken leg, it's that somebody has a broken spirit.
right.
Can be the problem. And if that's the problem, you can heal that too. Again, come up with a metaphor that represents that broken. Fix it. It's the same process, whether it's emotional or whether it's physical or whatever it is. Here's what's wrong with that person. Let that be black. And if it's maybe an emotional thing, you might see it around the head. If it's something that's systemic, you might just see kind of a gray cloud all around the person. And it could be an emotional base. I'd say 80% of our illness has an emotional base. Most of it, maybe more than that. Obviously a broken arm, not so much. But most of our illness does have an emotional, stress-related, fear-related base to it. So you just want to heal the whole thing, all of it, and have that as part of your intent. That's important. All right. I think I've gone through all of these things, so keep it simple. And I'll give you enough time to do all of these, but if you're working on one and you say, okay, done with that one, and you're waiting for the next one, well then go work on Aunt Susie, or somebody whose name didn't get on this list, or yourself. I guess that's another thing. Can you work on yourself? Yes. But there's one complication in working on yourself. You are more effective at this if you are detached. When you become emotionally connected to it, you don't do as well. For the same reason, surgeons don't operate, on their wives and children. They get some other surgeon to do it. Because once you're not detached from it, your intellect and other things, your fear and other things get in the way, and you're not as effective. So you can work on yourself just as powerfully as you're going to work on anybody else if you can be detached from yourself. A lot of people can't. They don't want to see black spots where they don't want to see them in themselves. So they have problems with it. But if you can detach and see yourself just like anybody else, you can work it just as well. So feel free to fill in the blank spaces with whatever else you're going to do. I'm going to give you extra time for these. But don't just spend it all trying to do one thing and you get wadded up. If you get wadded up in your mind and you realize your intellect and it doesn't feel right, just quit. Start over. 30 seconds or a minute for these are enough for you to get your process down. And the second and third one, your process will get quicker and you'll do better at it. So, okay. Now, we don't need to close our eyes if you don't want to. Closing your eyes is probably a good idea because then you have less other stuff going on. So I think closing your eyes would shut out some of that exterior data that you don't want. It's hard to close your ears, but what you do is you stop processing the things that you hear. You stop processing the things that you feel, like the seat becoming uncomfortable. You just stop processing those things. Say, okay, that's the way it is. I hear people breathing, I hear people shuffling papers because they're all writing and turning papers. It's okay. Don't process it. You don't have to do this in a vacuum. It's perfectly quiet, perfectly dark, and perfectly whatever. You can do this riding a bus with a bunch of 8-year-olds. You just focus, okay, and turn everything else off. Okay. That's it. No more preparation necessary. Okay, we are going to start at the top and work our way down through this list. And I'm not going to run you through it. I could say, all right, now, imagine a gingerbread cookie outline of CB, and I'll lead you through all that I said, but that kind of hand-holding, you'll get after that. You'll get past that by the time you get partway down the list. So just do all the things I said. It's your imagery, your metaphors. You have to clearly know that this is a particular CB, a metaphor for the health body, a metaphor for what's good and what's bad, a metaphor for how you're going to heal it. Break anytime, write stuff down on your paper. Come back. As soon as you come back, you'll come right back to it. No problem. No entry ritual, no exit ritual necessary. Okay, so let's begin. First person we're going to first diagnose and then heal has the initials CB. Diagnose and then heal, CB. Finish up your work on CB. The next person we are going to diagnose and heal is MK. Diagnose and heal MK. going to wind up your work on MK. The next person we are going to diagnose and then heal is S.A. Diagnose and heal S.A. Okay, begin to wind up your work on AS. The next person we are going to heal is J.H. We're going to diagnose and heal J.H. You wind up your work on J.H. Next person we are going to diagnose and then heal is N.M. Diagnose and heal N.M. begin to wind up your work on NM. The last person we have to diagnose and heal is RS. Diagnose and heal RS. Begin to conclude your work on RS. To end this exercise, diagnose and heal anyone whom you feel needs it and would wish it. experts. When you're done, just open your eyes. Okay. Been through all of it. We've gone through them quickly. I gave you about 2 minutes apiece, so in about 15 minutes we've healed 7 over here and 1 extra on your own. We're going to get the truth data in just a second, but before I forget, I should tell you that you can do this very same thing with people with whom you need to have a heart-to-heart talk. Somebody that would be difficult to talk to face-to-face, but yet you still need a communication. You can bring them up in your mind, you can have that talk. The only caveats that go with it is that it needs to be about them, not about you. This is not a talk to try to convince somebody to do what you want. This is a talk to try to give love and caring and help somebody else come to their own conclusions about solving their own problems, not directing somebody. So if done right, this can be a very effective thing. If done wrong, it generally tends to backfire on you. So you can talk to people telepathically using a very similar approach. All right, let's get the truth data now, and hopefully we'll see if you got any of the diagnoses right. CB, was the person who offered CB as a stand-up and tell everybody where they should have seen the marks and what's wrong with CB.
So CB is my sister, and she's had abdominal hernia, and 2/3 of her stomach were pushed up into her chest cavity. So if you saw anything around the stomach or up into the throat, the mesentery was.
Okay, that would be in this area is where you'd make your marks. Okay, next, MK.
It was my brother. He has AS, so he's trouble around his spine and hips. It's basically a kind of like a.
Sorry, can't hear you.
Also, this is my brother, which has a AS. So basically, his spine and hips are kind of frozen. Yeah.
AS, arteriolosclerosis?
Yeah.
Okay. Spine, problem with spine, and you say hips?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, the truth for SA.
SA is a member of the Unity community who has an exotic advanced cancer.
We can't hear you.
Okay, a member of the Unity community that has an exotic advanced cancer.
Yeah. Where?
Where?
Well, it's mainly the head and like all right through the body.
Okay, head and trunk.
Yeah.
There was the question, was the friend male or female?
Female.
Female. Okay, how about AS?
A woman I know from work who was neglected as a child and had lots of childhood trauma, abuse, and
Hold it up, Chris.
Oh, someone I know from work, a female who had lots of childhood trauma as a function of being neglected and then abused. So, panic disorder, disassociation, that kind of thing.
Okay, this was somebody who had emotional trauma. I take it's emotional trauma for the most case, and that then would have been around the central nervous system, which would have been the head and perhaps down the nerve. Yeah, you could see it spreading out like the nervous system. So CNS problem. And the truth for JH.
My young male friend who has a non-cancerous tumor on the right side of the head, and recently, a few days ago, he had surgery. During surgery, he had stroke, so now he's paralyzed or weak on the left side. On the left, the tumor is on the right side, so he's paralyzed on the left.
So that would be on the right and the left?
Well, the tumor was operated on the right side, so the left side of the body is affected.
Okay, so the problem's on the right side of the body. As far as that, the symptoms go over on the left side of the body. And how about NM?
My aunt, and she
Wait a minute, there's a microphone coming your way. Hold it up close.
that's my aunt, and she has an autoimmune condition, and she has bone disease.
Okay. Autoimmune might be something that's systemic. And bone disease, where in the bones? Any particular?
I think she just has I think it's called osteoporosis.
Okay, so that would mainly show up here in the back of the neck, in the back. Osteoporosis. And RS.
Well, if you feel really bad because you haven't gotten any yet, like me, you might luck out with this one because there were 6 things, so you might get lucky. Ears, condition called tinnitus. It's ringing of the ears 24/7. It's really, really painful. Leg infections, prone to leg infections, a lot of inflammation in the leg. It's that
Which
quite
leg?
often.
Right or left or both?
Right.
Right leg.
Right leg. Piriformis syndrome, it's caused by deterioration of the spine, and it settles in the left buttock, and it's really painful. It could last for up to 6-7 months, a lot of pain, and the only reprieve is standing. Sitting, walking, everything's really painful. Eyes, glaucoma. Back, I just mentioned that the spine has deteriorated from a few accidents. And stomach infections. Very serious stomach infections at times. Yeah, it can be deadly unless you take antibiotics. So there are 6 things right there.
All right, now all of you have had a chance to look at the truth data. How many of you got, say, at least one of these mostly right? A lot of people. How many got at least 2 of these mostly right? Almost as many. How many got 3 of these mostly right? That's still about 15, 20 people. How many got 4 of these mostly right? Now we're down to about 12 people. How many got 5 mostly right? About 8 people. How many got 6 of these mostly right? I guess there's no point asking for 7 then. Yeah. Okay, so we had, 8 people or so who got 5 of them mostly right. That's very good. So nobody will claim to having them all right. How many got some of the right places in the body, but for the wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens often. I'm not sure exactly why, but we'll see it in remote viewing as well. There'll be 5 remote viewing targets, and there'll be some people in the audience that get all 5 of them right, but in the wrong order.
It's because the targets are all visible at one time, so like if you're looking at the targets, you can mix up the signal.
Right, with remote viewing, it's easier to see because it's basically a not a precise query. The query is a little sloppy in their minds. It says something like, I want to see the result of that remote viewing you know, what's in the box? But there's 5 different boxes, and what's in the box doesn't specify it right. It's too generic a query is the problem for most of the times. But in this, it's a little more problematic to see why, you know, NM's illness showed up with SA or something like that, but it still happens. You get these symmetries that occur, and some of it might be chance, but sometimes it's precise enough that it's unlikely to be chance. Yes?
I'm not sure if my information stream that I was getting is right, but what I was seeing a lot of is the emotional reasons for the disease.
Okay, you were seeing the emotional part of the disease. Yeah, that will be that way. You probably have an idea that many diseases are emotionally based, and that's why you see it that way. And indeed, they are emotionally based. Another thing, not only can you communicate to people with a heart-to-heart talk this way, but you can, besides seeing a health body, you can see an emotional body. And besides seeing an emotional body, you can see a spiritual body. All of this is just information that's in the databases, and you find it the same way. But now with a health body, we make a humanoid shape and we have the dark and black. In an emotional body, you'll have to have a different output format. You could have happy emotions as light and not happy emotions as dark, or you could have red as anger, or you could have yellow as intelligence. You could have all kinds of things. You can make up your own, or you can go read Ledbetter's book on Man Visible, Invisible, and use his. You can do whatever you like there. It's kind of the default things that you will get if you don't specify your own format, which comes out of the collective consciousness. So now, you see, you are seeing auras just by focusing your intent and getting data from the database. If you decide the output you want is visual, and you want the emotions and spirituality or whatever to be in terms of colors and patterns, well, just specify what you want in the output, and there you go. So see how easy it is.
With that heart-to-heart or talk that you have,
Mhm.
what if it's a malignant narcissist who won't stop attacking you?
Well, the thing to do with the question is, what if it's a malignant narcissist that won't start attacking you? What you would do is you would connect with that person, and you would basically give them some love, a hug, and tell them, I'm here, and you may have a problem with me, but I just want you to know I care about you. I think you feel bad, and and I just want to give you a hug and say I love you. Something like that. And you give them a big hug, and then wait and see if they respond. They may tell you something. They may give you something. Or you might say, is there any way I can help? Is there any way I can stop being a nuisance or a problem to you? What can I do to help you feel better? That sort of thing is what you do. So you'd make it about them and see what you could get. And you may end up in a dialogue. Now, what you're talking to is not necessarily their intellect. You're talking to them at the being level. And what you're going to get is pretty much straight stuff. Now, you might not get anything coherent. There may be a person that's just in a perpetual rage, and you may just get rage. In that case, there's not a lot of point in talking, but better to just feel. Give them a hug. And you can maybe tell them that, you know, life really can be better. If you just concentrate on what's positive. There's got to be things in your life that are positive. There's somebody that loves you. You're somebody's mother. You're somebody's spouse. You're somebody's neighbor. There are people who care for you. You know, focus on that. There are opportunities that you have. So it's that kind of thing. Just be positive. Be very positive. And you will probably find that though they don't get that in their intellect, they always get that. And if you do that more than once, again, this healing, if you were somebody that you're seriously trying to heal, you repeat it and do it. Repeat it. Keep doing that. And there's a very high probability that that person would change their interaction with you, would dramatically change. After a couple of weeks of doing that, it's probably a whole new world with your interaction with them. May not affect their interaction with anybody else, or it might, but it'll probably affect the interaction with you. It's particularly useful for parents trying to get in touch with teenagers. Whereas if you walk up to the teenager and start them in a conversation, it often doesn't work out very well. You have immediate resistance and pushback to whatever it is you say. So if you have that kind of a difficult relationship with a child and it's hard to get, you know, to have a talk, a real serious talk, this is a good way to do it. You can have the talk. Just make sure it's positive and about them. It's not negative. You don't get to the narcissist and say, you sure are a pain in the ass. All the time I see you, you're constantly coming at me. What is this? You know, why don't you just stay home? You know, that's not helpful. All that does is feed their problem. That just makes it worse. So this is not a place to tell them how they need to change. It's a place to give them love and caring and hope, maybe even open them up to brighter, sunnier possibilities. Not in a way of this is what you should do, but you know, just opportunities that might come, help them see a bigger picture. People who act miserably, it's because they are miserable. They're unhappy. They're miserable. For the most case, they don't like themselves. They intensely dislike themselves, and that's why they do that. It's a strategy called, if you don't play, you can't lose. By being really miserable to everybody, they can say, people don't like me because I'm miserable, instead of people don't like me because I'm unworthy and unlikable. That last one crushes them. To say, people don't like me, yeah, but that's because I'm mean to everybody. Well, you can deal with that. That's not so hard to take. But people don't like me because I'm just unworthy of being liked. That's tougher. So rather than lose that game of being found unworthy, you just make everybody around you miserable. And now when people look at you like you're unworthy, it doesn't hurt so much because you know why, at a level that it's easier to take. A lot of people play the game, I can't lose if I don't play.